Well, Drew, I want to thank you for meeting with us virtually. You took Chemistry 108 a few years ago, and so you're familiar with the conversations with former Golden Eagles, and as I recall, you graduated this past May, right? And are now at Colorado pursuing your graduate studies. And so I thought we would have a little conversation for our Chemistry 108 students this semester and future semesters to view with you. So thank you for agreeing to do this.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it was a pleasure to be able to invite you. So I just want to start off. Your career trajectory through chemistry was a little, um, let's just say, non-traditional for
Yeah.
most folks. So I would appreciate it if you just spent a minute or so just telling the students about your pathway to becoming a chemist.
Yeah. So I graduated high school. I actually played football. So I went to Ole Miss to play football. Did that for a few years, got out with a actually got a general studies degree, which just meant I had like three minors, so I couldn't make my mind up. Um, Went out into the workforce, worked at an 84 lumber store for a little while as a manager. After that, I tutored English in France for a couple of years. While in France, I decided I wanted, more of a challenge, I guess, out of my day-to-day life, and remembered chemistry was something that I liked. So I came back to school. Started at Southern, I believe, in spring of 23. Was lucky in that I had all my prerequisites out of the way, so I was in pretty much 18 hours of chemistry for 2 years. So I got my fair share of chemistry courses, and then actually it was your class where we started talking about being in a research group and how that would be a good thing if I wanted to go, or anybody wanted to go to grad school or medical or dental school. So I think it was the next week I approached the organic instructor, Dr. Donahue. Got in lab pretty quickly there, and I spent a lot of my time in lab that I wasn't in classes or work. I also worked as a server in the meantime. And so, yeah, the department kind of guided me through what kind of needed to be done for grad school. And somehow after those 2 years, I had a really, I guess, pleasant resume. I wouldn't say it was super great because I didn't have the 4 years of the research experience, but um, yeah, I had a lot of help from the people at Southern and was able to get into a pretty good grad program here at Colorado State.
Yeah, fantastic. So let's pick up a little bit with your research, but first, did you always know when you came back to get your undergrad in your second undergraduate degree that you wanted to go to grad school, or were you thinking maybe I might want to go into industry with the degree, or kind of what was your thought process there?
Yeah, so I think you and I actually had this conversation in your one day after your class, but I was not sure. I initially thought I wanted to go straight into industry. Being a little older, I felt that maybe I needed to start earning money faster. But after speaking with you and with a few other people in the department and learning about kind of the paths that would open up if I did decide to go to grad school, I ultimately decided that was probably the best thing to do. And not to mention that once I actually got into lab, I kind of it's cheesy, but I kind of fell in love with the work. So I spent spring break, summers, all that in lab.
Yeah.
Yeah, so grad school seemed like the next logical step. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. So, grad school is not for everybody, and nor are we pushing it on everybody, but it is one of those things that if you really do like the work, and it, you got to kind of have a feel for that. And I think the only way to get that right is to actually get into a lab and maybe do a little bit and try to make that decision. So what was it about, because the work, as you well know, isn't every day you're making great discoveries. It's work, right? I mean,
Oh
there's
yeah.
high points and there's low points, for sure. But what about the work in the lab really kind of saying to you as this is something that I want to do?
Yeah, so I've always, I know people think chemistry, you're kind of buried in a book and all that, and a lot of times you may be, but I found that at least in organic labs, the wet lab work, kind of the hands-on stuff, it may sound counterintuitive, but starting to get into lab kind of hammered down the concepts from classes. Things started to make a little more sense. I was starting to kind of see what direction my advisor wanted to go in with some projects, so I started feeling more involved. And I guess it was just, every day, like especially for organic, you may set up a reaction and it might have to run overnight. And I started to realize that I was excited to get in the morning and kind of see what had happened, or maybe try to figure out something that had been given as problems. Just the back and forth between other people in lab, or between myself and the advisor. I just started to realize that I learned probably more in lab than I did in classes, and just also knowing that there was a path forward for after putting in your time in research
Mhm.
is just another motivating factor. It just, it's kind of the perfect storm. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, no, I'm definitely in that boat too, where my experience was, I did okay in lecture classes, for sure, but I mean it was really when you had to start putting multiple things together within a lab. I mean, labs, as you well know, in the research lab are not like the labs that you did for, your organic class or your gen chem class or whatever, right? I mean, it's not canned, right? And so it can take you down multiple paths. And I've always found that interesting. It sounds like you're kind of in the same boat with that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's like a puzzle, right? Every day you're kind of going into lab and you got to figure out what pieces of the puzzle you need to make this thing fit or make the reaction work. So yeah.
So talk a little bit about your experience, outside of the lab, but yet still research related in the sense of what products did you have as a result of your research? Were there any presentations, publications, conferences? What else did you do outside of the lab that was related to your research?
Yeah, so after about 6 months or so doing some pretty rigorous research, started putting together an oral presentation and a poster presentation. That way I could kind of go to as many conferences as I could kind of afford to. So I went to, there's a really great one called CERC. I think it's the Southeastern Undergraduate Research Conference. So that was the first one I ever went to. Just a little 12-minute presentation. Was super nerve-wracking at first because it's all these, super educated professors, and you don't want to mess up. But after time went on, I think I went to maybe 5 or 6 oral presentations in total. The reason that's important is that, so where I am right now, Friday is my last day of rotations, so I actually met the advisor that I'm hoping to work for at the fall ACS conference in Denver. I believe that was last year, actually. Um, and not just to network, but there's so many other things that you can kind of learn at a conference. So there's they have like new instrumentation, cutting edge instrumentation that might not even be on the market yet that you can kind of go look around at, or just talk to people that have nothing to do with your field. So I met people from, upstate New York that did, gold nano cluster synthesis and just exposes you to new science you might not have had the opportunity to experience yet. And not to mention that looks really good on your resume, that you can kind of talk through your own research. I know this is a little aside, but I went to Rice, so there's been a couple people from Southern Miss that are at Rice now, so that kind of motivated that. I think they have a conference called GCURS. So while at GCURS, I was actually able to get interviewed, and was front page of a really cool article that Rice put out. So exposure is another big thing that can come out of conferences, because it might seem silly, but when you're putting in applications, if someone has heard your name before or has met you, that gives you a really big leg up on the competition. And competition's pretty fierce right now with everything going on in the community.
Yeah, no, it is. And you experienced that firsthand with I mean, there were just a number of graduate schools that, for whatever reason, with the shutdown, decided to, or not the shutdown, but just the stuff going on at the federal level. Of course, I'm not trying to be political here, but I mean, it did have an impact, right? I mean, it did. Many institutions that I think you would have been a shoe-in for, just decided not to accept anybody.
Oh, yeah.
And so, the fact that you did land a position that at a place that you would have liked to have been, I think, is a testament to your abilities. And so that's, that we're happy for you in that regard. So, yeah, I mean, we did talk a little bit about the fact that you kind of have this non-traditional path to chemistry, and that you did get involved in undergraduate research early, at least with respect to the number of chemistry courses you had under your belt at that point, right? Can you talk about that? At what point had you made it through chemistry by the time you got into the research lab?
Yeah, so I started, it was weird, a spring semester was my first semester at Southern. So I think that was the one semester I wasn't loaded up with classes. So I think I was in your class, and then Gen Chem and maybe Cal 1 or 2. So that semester I wasn't in research. The summer I did Gen Chem 2 in physics. And then that fall semester, so the fall actually must have been when I had you. So it was that fall semester when I started.
Okay.
So there was about a semester where there was no research, but that following fall I hit it pretty hard.
Yeah. So you would have been in what, organic 1 at that point, maybe?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And then you kind of stayed in research the whole rest of your time, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So I was, I know it might seem like your schedule's crazy, or it might feel like you don't have a lot of time for it, but sometimes just, a couple hours a day in the lab really starts to add up when you look at your, total body of work.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's certainly cool.
Yeah.
So looking back on it now, I mean, you have this whole body of experience. You have the experience of actually having been a freshman twice in a lot of respects, right?
Yeah.
And so if you had to go back in time to the first time you were going to school, what advice would you want to give your freshman self at that point? I mean, just in general, it doesn't have to be chemistry related.
Yeah, so I guess try not to feel the pressure from maybe your family or the people around you into maybe rushing to get out of school, or only taking a certain class. When you're young and new in college, it's better to maybe take a class or two that you're interested in that might not count toward your major, just to see. I'd also probably say that, while going out and having fun is necessary, you should always have at least a day or two to yourself. Maybe I would have prioritized school a little more. So one thing we might not have talked about yet is I was not the best student my first time in school. So I was was not very disciplined, at least regarding school.
Okay.
So those little habits of, getting to class on time and getting your homework done when it's due,
Yeah.
kind
They
of
did say
compound
you were playing football at that time, right? So, I mean,
through.
I
So
mean, well,
it's
not to be anti-athlete here. I'm just saying, I mean, your focus was probably on a lot of the athletics, and I mean, were you starting? Were you playing? Were you?
Yeah, so my first year I had a couple shoulder surgeries. The second year I started for a little while, and then we got a new coach. I don't know if you remember the Hugh Freeze. So he had gotten in trouble for some phone calls he had been making at that, but that kind of turned things around in the football program. So um, yeah, the first 2 years I had a pretty good excuse. The next I could have been a little better, but you live in.
Yeah, so you had that experience the second time around, and so that was you put that to good use. So you had this broad education in your first degree, and so was there any class that you just happened to take that you think helped you out in your chemistry program? I mean, is there any advice there that you might want to give some students?
Yeah, so especially if you're interested in going into academia or research really of any kind, journal articles are a big deal. So learning how to write in a way that is captivating is very useful. As you can imagine, these chemistry articles are not exactly a pleasant read. You're not going to be itching to turn the page, but it's really helpful when someone has a clear grasp of how to write and kind of how to keep someone at least not too bored.
Okay.
So learning to write, I think, is a big deal.
All right. And I'm assuming you had more since you also tutored English in France, right? I mean, that's an interesting pathway as well. But I'm assuming you had more than just your normal English Comp 1 and Comp 2 kind of classes.
Yeah, so I took some. I thought I wanted to be a writer at one point, so I took a lot of like creative writing workshops. Took some like screenplay writing stuff. I mean, so I just took a lot of different writing courses, but writing and communicating verbally, I think, are two very important skills that maybe not as many chemists have as probably should.
Okay. All right. Well, I think that's real good advice. So, just to wrap up things here, we're kind of getting towards the end of what I typically like to have as a length of for an interview. You're starting off day one, really more or less in your graduate program. So, could you just maybe wrap up with some of your experience of actually applying to graduate school? I think that could be useful for a number of students who are thinking about that pathway.
Yeah, absolutely. So like we've kind of talked about already, the research is paramount. So everything that you can kind of do to bolster your application kind of stems from that. So like we mentioned, the presentations, whether they're oral or posters, are really important things to have on your resume. Being involved in some sort of club or at least some extracurricular activity is sort of a must now. Also, volunteer work. So I got kind of fortunate. I was the vice president of the Southern Miss ACS chapter. So a lot of my organizational stuff and volunteer work kind of went hand in hand. So we did some like demos at local K through 12 programs. So that was really nice. The last thing I guess is really just you need good grades. You definitely do. So even if it's tough, There's plenty of people willing to help. At least that was my experience. The faculty at Southern are great. Everybody was available when I needed it, or at least was in a reasonable amount of time. And then, your classmates are good resources too. So it's always good to kind of check with your friends and see what they're doing, or sometimes maybe your schedule's crazy busy, so a friend can kind of help remind you, like, oh hey, like the GRFP applications due in a little over a week, so maybe you should get on that. So it's also good to have like a small community around you, because sometimes other people have done things you might not even thought about yet. So the word a lot of places like to use right now is holistic applicants. So they want to see that you're a good person, and a well-rounded person, as opposed to just someone that makes hundreds in all their chemistry classes and doesn't really do research or doesn't really help the community. So yeah, just start thinking about all the things you can do that set you apart from other applicants. I think that's the best advice I could give.
Right. Well, no, that's certainly good advice, and I want to thank you for taking time to talk with us and our Chemistry 108 students and future students. This
Yeah.
will be, as I said, this is recorded and will be shown for multiple semesters, I am sure. And I just want you to know that we're proud of where you're at, and we look forward to seeing your future successes as a Golden Eagle, and represent your alma mater, at least this one, well. And I
Right.
just want to thank you for your time, and I'm sure the students will enjoy watching this down the road.
Yeah, well, yeah, thanks for having me. Definitely wouldn't be here without all the help from the faculty at Southern Miss, especially yourself, Miss Tina, Dr. Donahue, Dr. Pigza, all you guys kind of guided me to the right path. So
All
I,
right.
I couldn't thank you guys enough.
It's our pleasure, and we do really wish you the best of luck with your upcoming GRFP, and everything that you do, and we're looking forward to reading your research in the journals in due time. So
Yeah, hopefully soon.
congratulations to all your successes.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Masterson.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, have a good day.
You too.
All right, bye bye.